Hello, world, and welcome to the
Hello.
journey to CEO success. Happy 2025, Patrick. I'm Melissa
Hey, Happy New
Saunders.
Year.
Yeah, you too. I'm Melissa Saunders. I am your host for this podcast, and I'd like to welcome Patrick Thean, the world's best strategy execution expert. He is a best-selling author of an Amazon book, The Journey to CEO Success. And I want to welcome here and wish him a happy 2025. How was your holiday?
It was wonderful. I hope yours was as good as mine.
It was. Now back to 2025. So I am so excited that we are talking today about really an amazing topic. And I think one that's pretty timely in 2025 as we start reflecting on what we can do better for this year than we did last year. And of course, that starts with building a strong people ecosystem, which looking at your first company, Medisys, I know it achieved an Inc. 500 ranking before you exited. So you must have had an amazing one there. And I can speak to here at Rhythm Systems, it's a bunch of A players. Tell us, why is it so important to prioritize having a great team in place before you actually think about doing great work?
Yeah. The chapter on the people ecosystem covers a 360 view of the people around you. And the employees or the team around you is one aspect of the people ecosystem. And then there are other aspects, there's your your customers, your partners, your investors, your shareholders, and
Mhm.
others, your suppliers. So the full people ecosystem is actually discussed in the book, and the whole thing is important. However, for our short 25 minutes or so today, I think we're just going to focus on the employee side, and then maybe
Okay,
we'll do
then.
another episode where we cover the rest of the people
Yeah,
ecosystem.
that works. That
So
works well.
sounds good. So okay, so for today, let's talk about your employees side of the people ecosystem, and I'll share with you that most of us don't realize this, but you spend about 70% of your waking hours at work. 70%.
Whoa,
Yeah.
wow,
So a lot of
that's
your life is
unbelievable.
at work, right?
Mm,
And one of my early mentors shared with me when he was about 55 years old and I was about 40. He shared with me that he realized how much time he wasted working with people he did not enjoy or did not love to work with. And as he reflected, he shared with me that how working with the wrong people around him wasted a lot of time and energy. And initially, when he shared that, I thought it was more of a selfish take on it, like, hey, I don't like working with certain people. Why waste my time? But
yeah,
then,
sure.
but then as I examined it more, I began to realize how much resources are wasted when you don't actually have the right people working on the right things around you. So it's not just about your own personal joy, even though I would say it's okay to be selfish, by the way, about your own
Right.
personal joy, because I found that part of the reason why I am able to connect so well with my customers is that I only take on customers I want to hang out with. And what happens in that equation when I do that is that I care deeply about my customers. When I care deeply about my customers, it just comes across. I go the second mile for them. It's so easy. So
Right.
it is the same with our employees and the associates around us.
Mhm.
I've realized that if I only work with people that I love to work with, then it's easy for me to go the second mile. It's easy for me to care about them, to provide the things that we provide as a CEO. So I've learned a few things. Number one, the people around you are really important. Your joy, actually, and your enjoyment working with the right people around you is critical because
Mm.
this actually impacts the performance of the company, the performance of the people. It impacts your employee longevity, your employee engagement. Oh my goodness, I think people really underestimate what it costs them, or they don't even think about what it costs them when they don't have a happy and engaged employee base around them.
Yeah, no, I think we can all relate to that, being around sort of that one employee that, isn't an A team, an A member, and really having to work harder, trying to work around that person because the joy isn't there, maybe the quality of work isn't there. So you do end up working much harder when that
Yeah,
situation
yeah.
shows itself.
You know how, Melissa, when we work together, sometimes time just flies. And
Yeah.
we're like, oh my gosh, the day's
Yeah,
over.
already
You know
done.
you had a good time when you're at work and time just flew by. You know
Yeah.
you're having a bad time when you're at work and you look up and go, oh my God, only 5 minutes have gone by.
Yeah, no, you're right
So it's
about that.
yeah, and I think people also don't realize. So this book is about leaders having a journey of success. So I'm going
Uh-huh.
to focus on leaders. I think that it's critical for you to actually have the right leaders around you. Why? Because leaders are the key to the happiness and productivity of your staff. Now, you hear me say the word happiness quite a bit. And somebody asked me once, he said, Patrick, why do you say happiness? Aren't you more concerned about productivity?
Mm,
I would say, I don't know I've ever seen an unhappy person productive at work.
very
so
true.
so to
Kind of
me,
hand
it's
in
like
hand.
the leading indicator is the person's got to be joyful and happy. The person's got to want to come to this place to work. So I like to think of it as happiness and productivity. So I want you to think about like how you've reacted when you've worked for someone that you did not enjoy working for,
Mhm.
and so what happens is that this is a typical movie I've seen so many times. We have a leader who is not doing great. We're all compassionate, empathetic, and we want to help that leader get better. Here's the
Sure.
mistake a lot of senior leaders make. We're now so zoned in, tunnel vision on that one leader, trying to save that leader, make that leader better. Sometimes some of us may forget that that leader leads a bunch of people, and those people might be suffering, probably suffering, if that leader is providing poor leadership, poor direction, and not inspiring to work for.
Hmm.
So it's one thing to say, let's be fair to that person, give that person, opportunity to improve. Just understand, I'm not suggesting you shouldn't do that. I just want you to understand the other side of the equation, the other side of the coin, is that while you're being fair to that person, you're also being unfair to all the people that have to work for that person who are suffering.
Yeah,
So
that makes
yeah,
sense.
so
You
we
know,
usually think about that, right? We usually think
yeah.
more about, hey, it's really important to give that person a chance and that kind of stuff. So I've shocked some people when I've said, why?
It's not going to change
Why?
probably.
Well, I don't know that the person's not going to change. I'm just suggesting that while you're helping that person change, the other people are suffering. So I think you need to think about everyone, not just the one person that you're trying to improve. And if that person doesn't improve fast enough, that is the cost to you, is the rest of the organization suffering.
Yeah,
So that's
that
all I'm suggesting, is for us to,
mhm,
to think with a balanced approach. It's not just about that one person. It's
yeah,
also about the people that work for them, and for the customers that the person is serving. So what I'm sharing is that the cost of a poor leader is significant. Significant is the cost of employees not being happy. And by the
mhm.
way, I have noticed that your great employees, your best ones, they don't put up with crap.
Yeah,
Like
that's
I still remember when I was working at Oracle, I was one of the top performers, and I I had great managers, and then one day I was saddled with a poor manager, a bad one, and 6 months later I left the company.
yeah,
I loved Oracle, by the way, and
yeah,
still 6 months later I couldn't tolerate working for this guy, and I moved on. So the concern I always have is that if you leave a poor leader in place for too long, your great people don't want to work for that person, unfortunately.
yeah,
And if you
right.
don't find a way for them to have a better outcome with that person, they're going to move on.
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen that as well. It's easier to quit the company so that you don't have to interact with that poor leader than to have to kind of stay there and be subjected to that from an emotional standpoint. And I think it's also important, you know, there's a lot of financial costs associated with poor
Yes.
leaders for sure. Can you help me understand what those might be?
Yeah. So we have a concept we call return on payroll. And
Hmm.
what return on payroll is I like to say, look, every month you write a paycheck, you're paying that payroll. And so, uh, how productive are your employees, and what is the return that they're able to deliver back to the company for that check you've written? So I
Hmm.
call this return on payroll. Return on payroll is a measure of productivity for your employees on payroll. And so if your employees are beginning to underperform, less things get done, less productivity gets done. And what you want to think about is therefore the cost of delivering work or the cost of running your firm or the cost of servicing a customer actually goes up.
Right.
So, a lot of people talk about utilization. So if you have a consulting or service oriented organization, people look at the utilization. What's the utilization of my people? Now, that's good, by the way. Unfortunately, oftentimes utilization is about whether or not that person's hour is utilized. Return on payroll is
Mm,
about the quality of that hour. Is
gotcha.
that hour producing the right thing? So
Hmm.
I would suggest to you that a great leader in place will increase your return on payroll significantly. A poor leader in place will cause people to be unhappy, waste time grumbling, waste time with drama, and that reduces your payroll, your return on payroll.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm assuming, it definitely has an impact as well, poor leaders on the customers, correct?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you and I, we deal with customers. We are customers of people all the time, right?
Yeah.
If you just think back to your own experience, the brands that I enjoy are the brands that have taken good care of me, the brands
Hmm.
that when I call in have serviced me well. And how you service me is what I remember. And the next time I decide if I want to buy something similar, will I come back to your brand or not?
That's
You
right.
know, I'll tell you a quick story. I for a long time I wouldn't wear Lululemon.
Really?
My wife, she tried to introduce me to Lululemon. I said, nah, that's a silly brand, that's expensive, etc. And so one day I got the present, so I started wearing it, and then the uh, the pants kind of tore at a seam, but I liked the pants, so I brought it back to Lululemon and I said, hey, uh, I like to pay for this to be repaired, and this is about a year old already, and the person looked at it and said, oh, I'm so sorry, this should not have happened. This is a defect in our manufacturing. I will replace your pants.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like,
Blown
oh my God,
away.
are you kidding me? Like, this is more than a year old. Like, I said, I like to pay for it to be repaired. And they
Sure.
said, no, 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 this is a defect. And we'll take care of it for you. So I'm a big Lululemon fan now. So what I've realized is that it doesn't take a lot to
Hmm.
gain customer enjoyment and customer loyalty. But what it takes though is that in those few interaction points you have an opportunity to win that customer's heart.
Hmm.
And
So important.
if you do, that customer becomes a customer for life. Customer
Yeah,
for life.
right.
I
So,
remember a totally different experience where I had this luggage where the there was something wrong with the luggage. I think the wheels broke too quickly or something, and I brought it back and they said, well, it's out of warranty. I'm like, yeah, but can you not see? It's like,
right.
it's pretty new. Like, yes, but it's 1 month warranty. It's out of warranty, blah, 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 blah. And bottom line from that discussion was they said, nope, our rules are we can't repair it. We can't do this. We can't do that. But we can give you a
Credit.
small credit, not
Yeah.
even a full credit, small credit towards buying your next bag. And
Yeah.
I'm
And
thinking, I don't want to buy any more bags from you.
yeah, no kidding.
So my point is you really need to have people who are fully engaged, and there's a lot more that goes into. So this is not. I'm not going to make this episode about customer service. Okay,
Right.
what I'm trying to say is that the right people servicing the right customers has a better outcome than people who are unhappy servicing customers. And so I think that emotional intelligence is really important for leaders to have.
Mhm.
They need to have self awareness, empathy. They need to really care about their employees that they have. They need to know how to inspire team
Mm.
members, not just how to get the work done. And if they have good emotional intelligence, they probably have the basis of a good leader. If the leader does not have good emotional intelligence, doesn't understand how to work with people, doesn't have the people skills, you probably want to consider having that person do something different. And
Yeah.
by the way, it's okay. Like I've seen some people who were unfortunately promoted to the level of incompetence. Now that you take someone who's really good at their job
Oh,
and you
yeah.
go, wow, I'm going to make you a team leader. Okay.
Yep.
Well, that person becomes team leader, and you begin to realize that that person doesn't seem to have the people intelligence, emotional intelligence skills. And that person is so focused on doing a great job, and in fact may even find dealing with people kind of a hindrance, right? And now,
Mm.
if a person has that thinking and doesn't have the emotional intelligence, then they should just be paid highly to be the specialist and do the job they're great at versus making them a poor leader. So I think making sure that your leaders have good emotional intelligence is really important.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me too. I'm assuming besides the financial impact, and you touched on this briefly, there's obviously impact to mental and physical, right?
Yeah, in the book, this chapter, I actually tell the story of a friend and client that had they end up with an irregular heartbeat, and this person was dealing with a lot of stress working with his business partner,
Hmm.
and after a while, this stress created this irregular heartbeat. Now we don't know for sure. All we know that he was dealing with a lot of stress, and he developed this condition. And then he and his business partner separated because we talked about it, and he separated. And then a few months later, when we got back together, he shared with me that for some reason his irregular heartbeat went away, and I've checked with him regularly for the next couple of years, and it never came back. And so our conclusion, or rather his conclusion, was that, hey Patrick, even though I didn't realize it, I think it was the stress and unhappiness I had working with my business partner. Because he said once they separated, went their separate ways, he got much better, and it went away. So I think that we cannot control how our body reacts to stress. And I still remember a long time ago, I had hives pop up, and my doctor said to me, Patrick, you're dealing with stress. And I said, what are you talking about? I have a great life. I have a great job. I'm working 100 hours a week. I am having fun. This is
No
my
one
first.
could be happening.
Exactly. This is having my first company. And my doctor said, Patrick, you're traveling to see customers, right? I go, yep, all the time. You're sleeping what 3-4 hours a week a day, right? I say, yeah. He goes, okay, so you're not getting enough sleep. You're working 100 hours a week. You're traveling. You're on the plane all the time. You're working nonstop. You are in a stressful environment. And by the way, you're the CEO, so you have payroll, etc. I go, yes, 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 yes. He said, okay, so you may not realize it because you think you're having a great time, but your body's feeling it. You are under
Mhm.
stress. So yes, I think that there are other factors that could hurt your health, could hurt the way you're processing and thinking about stuff. So yes, there are other factors beyond the few that we just talked about.
Yeah, wow, that means it is so important really to find the right people to be leaders in your company. And I'm wondering, is there a way or a sort of formula that you can do that allows you to see who's doing well and who isn't?
Yeah. So, I borrowed this concept from Jack Welch, a previous famous ex-CEO of GE.
Hmm.
And so we'll put this chart up that you can see here. And in his chart, he said, okay, if you look at people, and you can use this chart to think about your entire employee base, not just your leaders. He said, look, in the A quadrant, you have people who give you strong results and also behave well, strong
Oh,
values. So I say
yeah.
strong values, I mean strong cultural fit to your company.
Hmm.
And therefore, you enjoy working with them. So top quadrant is the A quadrant, strong results and strong values. These are the A players. These are guys
Definitely.
and gals that you just want to protect and keep at all costs in your company. And
Uh-huh.
then, and then the next quadrant is folks that have poor results, not so good results, but strong values. No, Jim Collins in his book Good to Great talks about you want to get the right people on the bus, then you want to get them into the right seats. The B quadrant represents people that may be on the maybe people who are supposed to be on your bus. Right people got on your bus, and either they need more training in the seat they are in to become A's,
Uh-huh.
or they need to be in a different seat. So it could be a skill issue that needs to be upskilled, or it could be that they just have the wrong job that doesn't fit them. And then C players, poor results, poor values, I jokingly say, we don't even like these people.
Yeah. Why have those people around?
So why are they around? Why are they drinking your water,
Yeah.
eating the same food, breathing the same air? It's just like, please free up their future so that they can become A players somewhere else.
Somewhere
Which,
else.
by the way, I
Mhm.
believe that everybody, every person has the opportunity and the desire to be an A player. But if they're not an A player at your company, it's probably just a bad fit.
Mhm.
So I always feel like I want to help everyone be an A player. If you're not an A player at my firm, now I want you to be an A player somewhere else. So if you're a
Yeah.
C player, you really need to move on. Bad fit, bad results. Now, this is where I changed it from. I borrowed this concept from Jack Welch, but I changed it a little bit. I have the D quadrant. D quadrant is strong results but poor values. This is the most difficult quadrant,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the
right?
danger zone.
Yeah, because these people are actually providing value. In fact, strong results.
Yeah.
Um, but it's so hard to work with them. And it's sometimes when they come in and work, it's almost like a tornado ran through the office.
Mhm.
So I would say that these people create damage along the way that you don't even realize. It could be really hurting your value system, could be really hurting your company. In my book, I have an example there, couple of examples actually. One specific one about how we let someone go that really good results but poor values. And every time I've seen that happen in my clients' business and even in our own, people around us would thank us and say, wow, we wondered two problems. One, we wondered how long you're going to let this bozo
Yeah.
screw up my life here. But secondly, the second one that really concerns me is people then would say to me, we were wondering if you really cared about our culture and our core values
Mm.
because you just let this guy hang out here for a while.
Yeah.
So I think that when you have a D player hang out there, the message, the unintentional message that as a leader you may be sending is that if you are delivering great results,
Mm.
you don't have to behave well around us.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
will
the
suck
values
it up and
matter.
accept that behavior. So that's dangerous. And I think that the D players, the ones where we tolerate the behavior, and I would say the following message to all leaders: you can go faster for a short time with a D player, but you will go much further with a great team. And if you have a D player being selfish, only caring about their results, and not being a good fit with the rest of the team, you will not develop a great team. So you can go faster for a short while with a D player, or you can choose to go much further for much longer with a
Mhm.
great team.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And tell me, it must be nearly impossible to look at this quadrant, look at your employees and think and know, like, how do we get A players? Everyone can't be an A player.
Yeah, and so a lot of people would think that. Melissa, I'll share with you that you get what you choose to tolerate.
Hmm.
So if you say, hey, and I'll say two things. One, you get what you tolerate. Secondly, you also will you have the possibility of receiving the results you strive for. So if you said to me, Patrick, I want 100% of my company to be A players,
Yeah.
you have a chance of getting there. It's hard work. I don't know if you'll get there, but you have a chance to get there. But if you said, hey, I want 70% of my company to be A players, you will never get more than 70% because that's
Hmm.
the bar you set.
Huh.
So
No, that,
yes, I'm idealistic, but I want to
yeah.
encourage everyone to set a high bar. Because if you think about it, this affects your return on payroll, or affects the joy of your company, the people around you. You spend 70% of your waking
Mhm.
moments at work. And I think that our employees deserve a place to work where they love coming to work. So I think that's important.
Yeah, yeah. It's so important, I think, for leaders to build the right foundation that's going to allow you to achieve those dreams.
Yes, very
Hmm.
much so. Yeah. We don't have very much time left on this
Yeah,
podcast. So we also talk in the book about the concept of building the right future organization.
yeah.
And in the right future organization, what I've used that chart, but I've also then said, okay, this is the future that we have. And I would have people imagine or think about which roles they want. And so a combination of a leader and the employee base working to figure out what is the right future organization to capture the opportunity of the company. Now, what I've realized that when I've done that with my clients, it's really opened up their imagination and they start designing an organization that would be great. So when we do this exercise, what happens is that uh, they begin to notice what are the opportunities for growth for their people. Now we can call them opportunities for growth, or we can just call them gaps. These are gaps. So
Yeah.
if you want to grow into this particular role in the future, these are areas you need to improve. And
Okay.
here's a fun secret, actually. If I came to you and I said, "Hey, Melissa, um, I have a wonderful future for you, and this is the role I'm hoping you can capture, you can take in the company in a year or so. However, to do that, these are 2 or 3 areas you need to grow in
Hmm.
order to capture this future opportunity." That probably feels pretty inspiring, right? Your
It
boss cares
does.
about your future, your career, comes to you and says, "Hey, these
Hmm.
are some things I want you to work on so that I can pay you more, give you better opportunities, etc." That sounds great. That's one side of that coin, right? Now, the other side of the coin is I could come to you and say, "Hey, Melissa, there are 2 or 3 things that you're really just not very good at. And I need you to improve. So I want to put a development plan together to help you improve." Now that felt totally different,
Totally different.
totally
Yeah.
different. And now you're feeling like, man, my job's at risk. Patrick
Mhm.
isn't happy with me. I'm going to go home and tell my husband that I had a tough day. Right?
Yeah.
Whereas the first conversation, you probably go home and tell your husband, "I had a great day today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Patrick showed me 3 things
Mhm.
I need to work on so that I can be promoted." Right? Now, guess what? They're really the same thing. Like I could come to you and say, "Hey, there are 3 things you need to work on so you can be promoted." Or I can come to you and say, "Hey, you suck. There are 3 things you need to work on or you won't get promoted." You see the
Yeah.
difference?
Yeah.
It's the
No, it's
same thing. It's the
definitely.
same thing. So what I've encouraged people to do is that I learned this, there's this famous classic book by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And in that book, he talks about how, a drop of honey is worth more than a gallon of gall.
Mm.
So my point, his point in that is a drop of honey, motivation, inspiration, it's way better than beating you up. And so to me, taking that approach, like so, building a future organization creates also a dynamic in the company and the people where they're excited to
Yeah.
improve themselves. And I think that's really, really important. So the book talks about that as well.
Yeah, no, wow, we have had such great discussion, and this chapter is so full of just great nuggets for leaders to take away. I think next week, like you mentioned, we'll dive deeper into the other areas within the people ecosystem, and maybe also talk a little bit about coaching and how CEOs can make sure they themselves stay A players, because isn't
Yeah.
that important? And I want to encourage listeners, if you haven't already done so, purchase Patrick's book. That way, when you listen, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions as we post this on LinkedIn. Please feel free to post your question, and in the next episode we do, Patrick will answer any and all questions he receives through LinkedIn. The book is available on Amazon. And until then, we really hope that you enjoy your journey. Bye, guys. Bye, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Melissa.